Did you think you were safe? We see
Mom.
everything you do online.
The tiny alien girl's
Now we
voice
see you.
was barely a whisper, but inside the Queen's War Council, it hit like a bomb. 12 admirals stopped breathing. The royal guards froze, with their weapons half raised. The glowing war map above the silver table flickered in silence. The baby alien princess lifted her small, trembling hand and pointed across the chamber at the human prisoner, the same human they had dragged in chains, the same human they blamed for kidnapping her, the same human the Queen was about to execute before sunset. The baby's eyes filled with tears. "Mom," she whispered again. "That's him." Queen Zareth slowly turned toward her daughter. "What did you say?" The little princess reached both arms toward the prisoner. "That's him," she cried softly. "That's the man who carried me." And in that moment, the entire War Council fell into stunned silence, because the child had recognized a man she should not remember. A man everyone believed was a monster. A man who had spent 4 months in a prison cell for a crime he never committed. His name was Ethan Harlow, and 4 months earlier, on a dying alien world, he had saved the future queen of the Dominion. Not for reward, not for glory, not because anyone ordered him. He saved her because she was a baby, and because a dying woman had begged him with her final breath. The chamber of the Valyrium Dominion was built for war. Cold silver walls, violet banners, a black glass ceiling showing the stars above the capital planet. At the center stood a massive table with a hologram of the border sector spinning slowly in the air. Red lights marked human ships, blue lights marked Dominion fleets, and between them was the beginning of a war that could burn millions of lives. Queen Zareth sat at the head of the table. Her violet skin glowed faintly under the cold light. Her silver hair fell down her back like a river of moonlight. Her eyes were bright gold, but there was no warmth in them. For 4 months, she had believed her daughter had been stolen by humans. For 4 months, she had imagined the worst. Her baby girl, Lyra, taken from a hidden world during a medical quarantine. Her nursemaid dead, her guards missing, and now the human responsible stood before her in chains. Ethan Harlow looked nothing like a dangerous criminal. He looked tired. His prison tunic hung loose on his shoulders. His wrists were bruised from the restraint harness. His face was thin, his hair cut short, his jaw marked from the rough transfer. But his eyes were steady. That annoyed the admirals. A guilty man should tremble. A spy should beg. A murderer should lower his eyes before a queen. But Ethan only stood there silently, looking like a man who had survived worse things than their judgment. Queen Zareth spoke first. "Human, you are accused of murdering the royal nursemaid Satheva and abducting Princess Lyra, heir of the Dominion." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You have the story backwards." One admiral slammed his fist on the table. Silence. But the Queen raised 2 fingers. The room went quiet again. "You will speak when I command it," she said. Before Ethan could answer, a side door opened. A palace attendant rushed in, holding a small child wrapped in pale cloth. "Forgive me, Majesty," the attendant said nervously. "The princess would not sleep. She kept calling for you." The Queen turned sharply. No child belonged in that chamber. But Lyra was already awake. She did not look at her mother. She looked past her, across the council room, straight at Ethan. Her tiny body became completely still. Then her mouth opened. "Mom." The Queen's face softened for half a second. "Yes, my star." Lyra pointed. "That's him." Every eye turned toward Ethan. The guards tightened their grip on their weapons. Ethan's face changed. For the first time since entering the chamber, his calm broke. His lips parted. His eyes filled with something painful. Recognition. Relief. Love. The Queen noticed it, and it frightened her more than anger ever could. Lyra began reaching for him. The attendant tried to hold her back, but the little princess twisted in her arms. Mom. Him. Queen Zareth stood slowly. Leave us, she commanded. The admirals stared at her. Majesty. All of you, leave. No one dared argue again. One by one, the admirals walked out. The heavy doors closed. Only the queen, the child, the guards, and the human remained. Ethan looked at Lyra and whispered, Hey, little bird. The baby gasped. Then she began to cry. Not in fear, in relief. The queen heard that nickname. Little bird. No enemy would say it that way. No kidnapper would look like his heart was breaking just because a child remembered him. Queen Zareth turned to the guards. Remove his chains. The guards hesitated. Now. The restraint harness unlocked. Ethan rubbed his wrists slowly. Lyra stretched both hands toward him. The queen held her tighter. Do not move, she warned Ethan. I won't, he said softly. His voice was rough, but gentle. The queen looked into his eyes. Tell me everything. Ethan sat down, and he began. For months earlier, Ethan Harlow had not been a soldier. He was a rescue medic. His job was simple. Find people in impossible places and bring them home. Crushed pilots, lost miners, burned colonists, children trapped after orbital storms. He had pulled people from wreckage most others would not even enter. He was not famous. He was not rich. He was simply very good at walking into disaster and coming back with someone alive. Then his rescue cutter crashed on Meriden. Meriden was a quiet Dominion colony near the edge of known space. A world of shallow seas, farms, fishing towns, and soft lavender skies. But when Ethan woke inside the broken wreckage of his ship, the world was silent. Too silent. No traffic, no voices, no rescue signals. Only smoke, distant wind, and red cloth tied to doors. He did not understand the red cloth at first. By the third village, he did. The red cloth meant sickness. The whole planet was under quarantine. People were dying. The Dominion had sealed the skies. No one was coming. Ethan's distress beacon was jammed by orbital platforms. His pilot was dead. His ribs were cracked. His supplies were almost gone. 4 or 5 days, he walked through empty roads and abandoned farms. Then he heard crying. A baby. The sound came from a small house at the edge of a village. The door was open. Inside, a woman lay on the floor. Violet skin, thin hands, breathing like every breath was a battle. Beside her was a baby wrapped in a blanket. The baby had been crying for hours, maybe days. Ethan knelt beside the woman. Her eyes opened. She saw his face. Not Dominion, she whispered. No, Ethan said. Human. Her hand grabbed his sleeve. Better. Ethan did not understand. Then she pushed the baby toward him. Take her. I don't know where. Away, the woman breathed. Away from red cloth. Away from soldiers. Her voice broke. She is important. Ethan looked at the baby. Tiny hands. Tear-stained face. Big golden eyes. The woman tried to speak again. Her name. But she never finished. Her hand slipped from his sleeve. Her eyes went still. For a long moment, Ethan did not move. He had seen death before, but this was different. This woman had died trusting a stranger, a human, an enemy. Ethan closed her eyes. Then he picked up the baby. She stopped crying almost instantly. Her small body curled against his chest like she had been waiting for someone warm to hold her. Ethan found milk, a clean cloth, a small satchel. Then he stepped out of the house with the baby against his neck. He had no map, no transport, no allies, no idea who she was. But he made one promise. I'll find someone who loves you, he whispered. The baby blinked up at him, and Ethan began walking. The first week nearly killed them both. Ethan walked north because the spaceport was south, and he knew any quarantine checkpoint would be crawling with soldiers. He avoided towns, slept in barns, drank purified stream water, fed the baby tiny amounts of emergency nutrition gel and milk. He had no diapers, so he improvised with torn cloth. He had no crib, so she slept against his chest. At first, she did not smile. She barely cried. That scared him. A baby that quiet had already learned too much about fear. So Ethan smiled at her every morning, even when he was hungry, even when rain soaked his clothes, even when his cracked ribs burned with every step. "Morning, little bird," he would say. For 4 days, she only stared. On the 5th day, she smiled back. Small, crooked, uncertain. Ethan sat on a rock and covered his face with one hand. He did not know why that tiny smile hurt so much. Maybe because the world was dying around them. Maybe because this child had no idea she was important. Maybe because for the first time in years, Ethan wanted to survive for someone specific. On the 9th day, a farmer found them at a crossroads. The farmer had a rifle. Ethan stopped and raised one hand. The other arm held the baby. The farmer looked at Ethan, then at the child. "Whose baby?" "A dying woman asked me to take her somewhere safe." The farmer's eyes softened. "There is nowhere safe." "I know." For a long moment, the farmer said nothing. Then he lowered the rifle. He gave Ethan dried fruit and herbs. "Go north," he said. "At the 3rd river, turn east. There is a harbor town. Some fishermen there still have courage." "Why help me?" Ethan asked. The farmer looked at the baby. "Because she is small, and you are tired." That was all, and maybe that was enough. Ethan kept walking. Rain came in the 2nd week. Cold rain, endless rain. The baby developed a fever. Ethan found shelter inside an old brick kiln. He took off his shirt, wrapped them both in a thermal blanket, and held her against his bare chest through the night. Her skin was too hot. Her breathing was weak. Ethan stayed awake, whispering stories so she would hear a voice. He told her about Earth, about apple trees, about oceans that smelled of salt, about his wife, who had died years ago, about the family he had lost, about how sometimes the universe took everything and still expected you to stand up the next morning. The baby did not understand the words, but she understood the voice. Just before dawn, her fever broke. She sighed against his chest and fell into deep sleep. Ethan stayed still for another hour because he was afraid to wake her. Then, for the first time since the crash, he cried, quietly, so she would not hear. By the 17th day, Ethan reached the coast. The harbor town was full of Dominion soldiers. They were searching houses, checking boats, stopping families. Ethan watched from the grass above the cliffs and realized the truth. They were looking for the baby. He still did not know she was a princess, but he knew enough. If they found her with a human, they would not ask questions. They would shoot first and write the story later. So he went around the town. For 4 more days, he followed the coast until he found a small fishing village. There, he met an old fisherwoman named Asa. Her boat had a black sail. Her hands were rough from decades at sea. She looked at the baby once, and her face changed. "That child," she said quietly, "has a royal face." Ethan's blood went cold. "I don't know who she is." Asa pushed his money back across the table. "Keep it. I will take you across the strait, because I am old, and I am tired of being afraid." That night, under a moonless sky, Asa sailed them across the dark water. The baby slept against Ethan the whole way. When they reached the other shore, Asa helped him onto the beach. "Human," she said. Ethan turned. "Thank you." He did not understand then. He would later. Ethan walked 6 more days to an emergency Federation signal station. By the time he reached it, he had not eaten solid food in over a day. His cough had worsened. His legs shook. The baby was weak, but alive. He activated the beacon. Then he sat in the grass and held her in his lap. "I promised," he whispered. "I told you I'd find someone who loves you." The Federation shuttle arrived first. That was the good news. The bad news came when the pilot saw the baby. "Oh no," the pilot whispered. "What?" Ethan asked. The pilot looked at him with horror. "That's Princess Lyra." Ethan stared. The future heir of the Valyrium Dominion. The child every fleet in the sector was searching for. The baby he had carried through mud, rain, fever, hunger, and death. Before Ethan could even process it, Dominion ships surrounded the Federation cutter. The captain negotiated one thing only: Ethan would be taken alive. Lyra was pulled from his arms by the Royal Honor Guard. She screamed. She reached for him. Ethan tried not to react, but when the shuttle doors closed between them, something inside him broke. The Dominion took him in chains. For 4 months, he sat in a prison cell. No trial, no explanation, no sunlight, only silence. A Valyrium medic visited twice a week. One day, the medic paused at the door. "The princess is asking for you." Ethan looked up. "Asking?" "She has only one word," the medic said. "A human word. She says it every night." Ethan closed his eyes. Little bird. He had thought she would forget, but she had not. And now, for months later, she had pointed at him in the War Council and saved his life. Queen Zareth listened without interrupting. When Ethan finished, the chamber felt different. The war map still glowed above the table, but now it looked ugly, like a lie made of light. The queen looked down at Lyra, who had finally stopped crying. The child still watched Ethan, still reaching toward him. Queen Zaretha's voice became quiet. "Sativa was chosen by me personally. She raised children in my family. She loved the sea. She loved my daughter." Ethan nodded. "She died, trying to protect her." The queen's eyes shone. "For 2 weeks, I thought Lyra was dead. For 2 more, I thought humans had stolen her. My council told me war was justice." Ethan said nothing. "I believe them," she whispered. Lyra reached out and placed her tiny hand on Ethan's knee. The queen saw it. That small hand did what no argument could. It told the truth. This child did not fear him. This child trusted him. This child remembered safety in his arms. Queen Zareth stood. She walked to the council doors. Before opening them, she turned back. "Ethan Harlow, what do you want?" Ethan did not hesitate. "To go home. That is all. That is all. No gold, no title, no reward." He looked at Lyra. "I didn't carry her for a reward. I carried her because she was alone." The queen stared at him. Then she said softly, "That is a very human answer." She opened the doors. The admirals returned. They expected an execution. Instead, they saw Ethan sitting unchained. They saw Princess Lyra asleep against her mother's shoulder. They saw their queen standing taller than before. "The prisoner is not a prisoner," Queen Zareth announced. Shock spread through the room. "The charges are withdrawn. The war is withdrawn." Admiral Vorik stepped forward. "Majesty, our fleets are already mobilized." "Then stand them down. There will be questions. There will be answers," she said. She turned toward the war map. "This human carried my daughter across 400 kilometers of a quarantined world. Alone, hungry, injured, hunted, while we prepared to burn his people for a crime he did not commit." No one spoke. Then the queen said the words no ruler in that chamber had ever expected to hear. "We were wrong. I was wrong." The silence returned, but this time it was not fear. It was shame. It was truth. It was the sound of a war dying before it began. 3 days later, the Dominion announced peace talks. A joint medical mission was sent to Meriden. Federation doctors and Dominion healers worked side by side. The fever was contained. Thousands were saved. The story of the human medic spread across worlds. Some refused to believe it. Some called it propaganda. But then Queen Zareth herself appeared before her people, holding Lyra in her arms. She told them everything, not as a political speech, not as royal performance. As a mother, she spoke of Sathiva, who died protecting the child. She spoke of Asa, the fisherwoman with the black sail. She spoke of unnamed farmers, broken roads, cold rain, and one exhausted human who refused to abandon a baby who was not his own. And for the first time in Dominion history, millions of Valyrium's citizens heard their queen say, "A human saved my daughter." 6 weeks later, Ethan was brought to the Hall of Names. It was the highest honor in the Dominion. No human name had ever been placed there. The hall was filled with nobles, soldiers, and witnesses from both civilizations. A high lord objected. "He is not Dominion," the lord said. "He cannot be written among those who served us." Ethan stepped forward. "You're right." The hall froze. "I'm not Dominion, and I don't want my name on that wall." The queen looked at him in surprise. Ethan continued, "Write Sathiva's name. She saved the princess first. I only carried her." For a long moment, no one moved. Then the High Lord lowered his head. Sathiva's name was written that day. Ethan's was not, and somehow that made the people remember him even more. Years passed. The Dominion and the Federation did not become friends overnight. Peace never works that way. There was anger, suspicion, old pain. But every time the peace almost broke, someone remembered the story. The human who refused a reward, the baby who recognized him, the queen who chose truth over pride. Lyra grew older. She became fierce, intelligent, and brave. Every year, on the anniversary of the day Ethan carried her from the dying village, she asked him the same question. "Why did you save me?" And every year, Ethan gave the same answer. "Because you were small, and someone had to." When Lyra turned 12, she asked a different question. "Did you know I was important?" Ethan smiled. "No." "Then, why did you keep going?" He looked at the sea for a long time. "Because important is not something a baby has to earn." Lyra took his hand. For a while, neither of them spoke. Then she whispered, "You were my first memory." Ethan's eyes filled with tears. He looked away quickly, but Lyra saw. Years later, Queen Zareth was asked by a historian what truly ended the war. Was it diplomacy? Was it strategy? Was it fear of destruction? The old queen smiled sadly. "No," she said. "It was a child's voice." The historian did not understand. So the queen explained, "I was ready to kill him. Then I was ready to kill many people who looked like him. I was angry enough to mistake revenge for justice." She looked toward the garden where Lyra's children were playing. "My daughter saved my honor that day. She did not know politics. She did not know war. She only knew that the man in chains was the man who held her when she was afraid." The historian asked, "And that was enough?" Queen Zareth nodded. "That was everything." And across both civilizations, the story lived on. Children learned it in schools. Soldiers carried it into training. Mothers told it at bedtime, not as a story of war, but as a story of recognition. Because sometimes peace does not begin with a treaty. Sometimes it begins with a dying woman trusting an enemy. Sometimes it begins with a tired medic picking up a child. Sometimes it begins with one small voice in a room full of powerful people. "Mom, that's him." And sometimes that is enough to stop a war.